Here we go. We are at the Mishnah, Yudalet Amud Bet 14b at the Mishnah. We're doing a full daf. Bezrat Hashem. Here we go. Kunam Shani Yoshen. A person says, I'm making a neder. Kunam, we said it's a kinut for neder, that I'm not going to sleep. Kunam Shani Yoshen. Next, Shani Medaber, a kunam that I'm not going to speak. Shani Melech, that I'm not going to walk. He makes these types of promises. Ha'omer le'isha kunam shani mesham meshech. He tells his wife that I'm not going to have marital relations with you. All in a neder form. Hareze belo yachil devaro. All these are good neders, and they fall into the category of lo yachil devaro, which is the violation of you're not allowed to profane your words. And if a person violates these neders, there's an avera, lo yachil devaro. So now, the Gemara is going to discuss the first case of sleeping. Itmar. Kunam enai b'shira hayom. It's going to discuss the sleeping, but it's going to discuss it in an interesting way. And we're going to see Machloket, Rav Yehuda, and Rav Nachman. And then we're going to see Rav Yehuda's reasoning for his Machloket. And then the entire Gemara is going to question Rav Yehuda. Okay, here we go. Kuna itmar. Kunam enai b'shina hayom im eishan lemachar. So he makes a Manishma, the special guest. Everyone say hi. מה קורה? הכל טוב?
מה אתה חושב שאתה תיסע ללוס אנג'לס?
Okay, after our little commercial break, we are back. Here we go. Itmar, says the Gemara, Kunam enai b'shena hayom im isha lemachar. He's making a neder. If I sleep today, it's going to be asur if I sleep tomorrow. Kunam enai b'shena. I'm making my eyes asur on sleeping today if I sleep tomorrow. I'm making my eyes asur to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So that means the way to violate is if you sleep both days. So if he sleeps today, right? Kunam enai b'shenai. So if he stays up on day one, then he's fine. He didn't. The isur is if he sleeps on day one. So if he stays up on day one, then fine. If he sleeps on day one, he can't sleep on day two, or else it's going to be a violation of day one. All right. So my eyes are asur and sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. Amar Rav Yehuda Amarav. Says Rav Yehuda Amarav. Alishan hayom. Shema yishan lemachar. So what do I do today on day one? Rav Yehuda says, don't sleep today, because you might come to sleep tomorrow. Don't sleep today. So again, we said the way to violate is if you sleep on both days. So he says, I'm making a promise I'm not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So Rav Yehuda says, don't take any risks. Don't sleep today, because you might come to sleep tomorrow and then you're out. Rav Nachman Amar, Yoshen hayom. Don't worry, sleep today. We're not worried you might come and sleep tomorrow. If you slept today, we know that you're gonna have you're gonna have to stay awake on day two. So you're gonna be on top of it, and you're gonna make sure you're not gonna sleep on day two. So you could sleep today. So Rav Yehuda says, don't take any chances. Don't sleep on day one. Nachman says it's okay. You could sleep on day one, and you know you're gonna be awake on day two. Umoder Rav Yehuda agrees in the following case. Beomer, the opposite. Kunam enai b'shena lemachar im ishan hayom. So Rav Yehuda agrees in an opposite case. I'm making a promise on my eyes from sleep tomorrow. I'm not allowed to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. I'm not allowed to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. So Rav Yehuda agrees, Shishan Hayom, sleep today. It's okay. So again, there as well, The only time you're going to be out, you're going to be in violation if you sleep both days, right? So you're saying in this case, kunam enai b'shanan machar. I'm making it asur for me to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. So it's asur if you sleep both days. So Rav Yehuda says it's okay. Sleep day one, and you know yourself that you're going to stay awake on day two, and you're not going to violate. So why is there a difference here? And here's the key line. It's the top of the next page. Kilo mizdaher bitna'a ava be'isura mizdaher. Yehuda's reasoning is a person doesn't watch himself so much on the tanai, on the condition case, on the condition day. We'll explain in a moment. Ava be'isura mizdaher. But on the isur day, he does watch himself. So basically, when a person makes a statement, let's look at the last case that we talked about, in the case of his agreement, that the person says, I'm making it asur to sleep, kunam enai v'shana lamachar im ishan hayom. Kunam enai v'shana lamachar, it's asur for me to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. So in this statement, it's asur for me to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. There's an isur and there's a tanai. There's a day of isur and there's a day of condition. So the tomorrow, day 2, is the isur day. Because he says, my eyes are asur to sleep tomorrow. It's asur to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. Condition is if I sleep today. So Rav Yehuda says a person is more worried about the day of isur, not the day of a condition. So here, the day of isur is on the second day. So I'm making a promise I'm not going to sleep tomorrow. I promise I'm sleeping tomorrow. If I sleep today. On the if I sleep today, your reader says, don't worry about it. Sleep today. Because you know on that day tomorrow, it's the asur day. You know yourself you're not going to sleep. But in the opposite case, in the earlier case, the case was, I swear I'm not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. I make a neder on my eyes from sleeping today. I'm not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So the asur day is day 1. The condition is day 2. So on the isur case, that's what Rav Yehuda says, therefore don't sleep on day 1. It's asur for me to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So Rav Yehuda says the isur case is the main thing that a person's worried about, not the condition type of case. So that is the reasoning for Rav Yehuda. Now the Gemara is going to ask questions on this reasoning. The Gemara is going to ask questions on this reasoning. Is it so that Rav Yehuda is only worried about the day of Isur itself and not the day of the condition? Says the Gemara. Tanan, second line down, 15a, to the Vav Aleph. Tanan. Kunam shani yoshen. So now we're quoting our Mishnah. A person says, I promise I'm not going to sleep. Shani mehadech, I'm not going to walk. Shani medaber, I'm not going to talk. I think it was the opposite way around in the our Mishnah itself. Okay. Heichidami. Says the Gemara, what's the case of not sleeping? What's the case? Ilema kedektani shani yoshen mi hava nadra. Number 1, when a person says, I swear I promise I'm not going to sleep, is it a neder? Can you make a neder on this? V'atanan, we learned in a Mishnah, Chomer b'Shavuot, there's a stringency, and we learned this last time, there's a stringency when it comes to Shavuot over Nedarim. שהשבועות חלות על דבר שיש בו ממש, ועל דבר שאין בו ממש. השבוע, it works on something physical and something not physical.
Like we spoke about this. Open my eyes or like something.
Exactly. So we're gonna make that physical, right? So Masha'in can be Nedarim, as opposed to Nedarim, which is only on physical things. V'shena davar she'en bo mamashu, and sleep is something not physical. So how could I say I'm making a kunam, a neder, on not sleeping? That's something that's not physical. Shavua goes on that, not a neder. Ela de Amar answers the Gemara. Kunam enai b'shena. I'm making a neder on my eyes from not sleeping. Okay. And it's going to be like a long back and forth until we get to the question on Rabbi Yehuda.
But our eyes, what makes
Eyes
sleep,
are physical.
We can close our eyes without sleeping.
We can close our
Shema
eyes.
Yisrael.
Right, we can close our eyes and not be sleeping. You're saying that the sleep is something not physical.
And it is possible to sleep without closing your eyes. Some people can
Do that.
We've seen it. It looks weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so is closing your eyes what?
Part of sleeping. Okay, I hear.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I hear. You're asking on the because the Gemara now is putting it on a physical thing. No, sleep could be physical here because we're saying, well, the person says, I'm making a promise that my eyes are not going to sleep. Okay, that's what it is. I'm promising that my physical eyes are not going to sleep.
So is he saying
So
I'm not going to close my eyes?
No, that my eyes are not going to sleep.
So they need a text on something.
Then it takes
tangible,
on
right?
something intangible.
Okay.
So the truth is also when a person, even if a person's eyes are open, he sleeps eyes open, you go like that or whatever, he doesn't see. So I'm making sure my eyes aren't going to sleep. Okay, so says the Gemara. We didn't get yet to the question on Rav Yehuda. Let's see. So says the Gemara. Eladamar kunam enai b'shana. V'id lo yahiv shiura. Mishav kinan le ad avar isur bal yachel. And if a person doesn't make an amount of time, that you're not going to sleep forever, a guy says, I promise I'm not going to sleep. If a person doesn't give an amount of time, do we leave him until he violates the isur of going against your words? We just leave him until, does that how it work? Ve'amar Rav Yochanan says, Shavua shelo yishan shlosha yamim malkino tov v'yoshan le'altar. If a person makes a shavua, I'll not sleep for 3 days, we give him lashes, and he could sleep right away, because it's impossible to not sleep for 3 days. So he's saying something that's impossible, and therefore we give him lashes for that type of shavua, for that, wasting, I guess, Hashem's name in vain, and he could sleep right away.
How
So-
do they give them lashes? Sorry.
It's a side point.
Masechet Makot.
Yeah, Masechet Makot.
The doctor would come. The doctor would come, and the doctor would say, "This person is capable." Let's say it would always be 39.
Maximum is 39.
But the doctor would come and say, from my understanding, this is how much this person can handle. He can handle 4. He can handle 7,
Right.
10, and then
Out of the
and then the Beit Din would only administer exactly what.
Well,
They're
Yeah.
fast.
How do they do it?
How do
So
they-
I think it's 2/3 on the back, 1/3 on the stomach.
with what?
A whip.
Oh, whip? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's. I
Better
forget.
than stoning.
Yeah.
It is.
I forget the material of the whip, and the Gemara Masechet Machakot talks
Stoning
about it.
starts with them pushing you off.
Push out the clippers.
Yeah.
But I think he has to lie down on
And they
something,
throw a rock
and
on
A
then
big boulder. And
Yeah.
2/3 on the back, 1/3 on the stomach.
But
You
it
don't want-
never
you don't wanna get
happened. Never
lashes.
would happen. It never happened.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'll pass on that one.
I'll pass on that one.
So we're saying that a shvua or a neder that's impossible, that's an impossibility, is not a shvua.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So we're building up this question on Rabbi Yehuda, and the build-up starts with dissecting this case of I'm not going to sleep. Number one, we said, can you even make a neder on that? Neder's only on physical. No, on the eyes. Okay, fine. So do we leave him until he sleeps, and then he violates the isur? And we know Rabbi Yochanan says 3 days. That's the max. And if a person says, I'm making a shavua for 3 days, we give him lashes, and he can sleep right away, because it's not, right? You can't go 3 days or more. Ela de Amar, so what's the case? It can't be 3 days, it's less than 3 days. Ela de Amar, so now the Gemara is saying that when our Mishnah said a guy says, I'm not going to sleep, I'm making a promise I'm not going to sleep, what's the case? Ela de Amar, rather he says, Konam enai b'shena lemachar im ishan hayom. So the case is the case that we set up at the beginning of the Gemara. Person says, I promise that my eyes are not going to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. So the Isur is on day 2, and the if I sleep today, the condition case is day 1. And we said there that Rav Yehuda says you could sleep today on day 1. Says the Gemara, Ha'amart kol be'isure mizdaher. So the Gemara is asking, but we said, Rav Yehuda said that
Person's careful with the Isser.
right, a person's careful in the case of Isur. So what's the question? A person's careful in the case of Isur. Oh, and that's why you could sleep. That's why you could sleep on day 1, right? Because it's damar kunam and abishana lemachar. The Isur case is day 2. If I sleep on day 1,
So then they're in agreement with Nachman and Yehuda.
so that would work out. Ela pshita, rather it's obvious. The amar konam enai b'shena hayom im yishan lemachar. Rather the case must be the case of the machloket. That person says, I'm making a neder on my eyes today if I sleep tomorrow. So today is the case of Isur, and day 2 is the case of condition, where Rav Yehuda said you can't sleep on day 1. V'il lo naim hayom, and if he doesn't sleep today, ki naim lemachar, when he sleeps the next day, my bal yachel devaroika. What bal yachel devaro is there? So we said like this: the case must be the case in our Mishnah that says konam sheni yoshen must be now a case of a person saying that I am making I'm not, my eyes aren't sleeping today if I sleep tomorrow. So the case of Yisur is today, the condition is tomorrow. And if you don't sleep today, then you could sleep the next day. So ve'ilo naim hayom ki naim lemachar, when you sleep the next day, my bal yachel devroika. What bal yachel is there? There's no bal yachel because you didn't sleep on day 1. It seems that the Gemara wants to get to a case that there is bal yachel
When you say Baal Yachel, it's that he's
violating, that he's violating,
right? Yeah.
right? Not bal yachel, not to profane your words.
Okay.
So the Gemara is setting up the case of our Mishnah that the kunam shani yoshen is the case of that you say konam enai b'shena hayom. It's asur for me to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So the Gemara says if you don't sleep on day 1, then if you don't sleep on day 1, when you sleep on day 2, what bal yachel is there? There isn't. And for some reason the Gemara needs that there's a bal yachel. I guess because our Mishnah says the case is a case of bal yachel. Elalav b'denaim. Rather the case is that you slept on day 1, on the day of Isur. You slept on day 1, meaning we needed to have a case that at the end of day 2 there could be a possibility of bal yachel. And if you didn't sleep on day 1, then on day 2 there's no bal yachel, because you said I'm not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow.
If he stays up the second day as well.
It's only possible for him to be Bal Yachel if he sleeps on the first day.
No, if kunam enai b'shena hayom, I'm assuring my eyes from sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So if he stays up on day 1, if he stays up on day 1, then there's no bal yachel on day 2.
If he sleeps on day 1,
But if he sleeps on day
now
one,
he's opened himself off to
you
the
open yourself up.
possibility
Exactly.
of Bal Yachel.
So that's what the Gemara is saying, that we need at the end of the story a case of Bal Yachel. So, Elalav b'denaim, it must be a case that you slept on day one. Alma ite denaim. It comes out that you slept on day one, and day one is the day of Isur. V'tiyuv the day of Yehuda, and it's a question of Yehuda. So what's the question of Yehuda? Rav Yehuda from our Gemara, in the statement of the first line, says he cares most about the day of Isur. The day of Isur, that's where a person's he's not going to play around with. So the Gemara says, yeah, I'll show you that there's a case that Rav Yehuda will play around with the day of Isur. What's that case? So the Gemara dissects the case of our Mishnah that says that a person says, I'm not going to sleep. What's that case of not sleeping? First of all, how can you make the neder? It's on the eyes. It's 3 days maximum. She said, okay, so the case is less than 3 days. But the case is, the Gemara doesn't say a straight up case, I'm going to sleep less than 3 days, but the Gemara says that the case is that I swear I'm not going to sleep. I'm not going to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. The Isur is on day 2, and the condition is day 1. But we said that case is obvious that it works because both are in agreement. Both Rav Yehuda and Rav Nachman are in agreement that you could therefore sleep on day 1. Rather, the case must be that you said, I promise I'm not going to sleep on day 1 if I sleep on day 2. So the Yisur is on day 1. And if the Yisur is on day 1, Rav Yehuda in our Mishnah, or Rav Yehuda said, and the Gemara, the beginning of the Gemara, don't sleep day 1. Because we're worried about the Yisur. But hold on, if we're talking about the case of our Mishnah that says, if I sleep, it's asur for me to sleep, and the case is, if I sleep on day 1, it's asur for me to sleep on day 1 if I sleep on day 2, you need a Bal Yachel Devaro after day 2. Because if you stayed up all night, if you stayed up all day on day 1, there's no Bal Yachel anymore. The story's over. Must be that you slept on day 1. If you slept on day 1, that's the day of Isur. How could you sleep on day 1? Question on Rav Yehuda. V'tiyuv to Rav Yehuda. How can you sleep on day 1? Day 1's the day of Isur. Answers the Gemara, Kiktani de'i na'im. Rav Yehuda doesn't say you must sleep, but rather, if you slept on day 1, now you got to stay awake on day 2. So that's still in line with Rav Yehuda. We're not saying you must sleep on day 1. If you slept on day 1, then you must stay up on day 2. And if you look at the Ran, the last of the thin lines on the left side, the Vav Amud Aleph, Kiketani de'i na'im. The Adarabba. It comes to teach us the opposite. You want to say it's a question on Rav Yehuda? It's opposite. It's in line with Rav Yehuda. But nitin hadir Rav Yehuda ata lashmuina. The Mishnah is coming to teach us like Rav Yehuda. This is what it means to say. Yizaher shelo yishan yom rishon. Be careful not to sleep on day 1. Be careful not to sleep on day 1. Because again, the case is that the day of Isur is day 1. So don't sleep on day 1. De'i yoshen, if you do sleep, karov hu lavoli de bal yachal devaro. You're very close to be doing bal yachal devaro. De b'tanai lo mizdaher. You know why? Because on day 2, which is the day of Tanai, people don't worry that much about it. Therefore, it's not that you must sleep. It's not that you must be. It's not that you must sleep on day 1. It's if you slept on day 1, meaning don't sleep day 1, because day 1 is the day of Yisur. Day 1 is the day that we're worried about. Day 1 is the day people worry about. And if But if you slept on day one, now you're gonna have to be careful on day two. But better not to sleep on day one.
So I have a question.
And basically, ends up being not not a question of Yehuda. Yeah.
So the Mishnah says, and I guess it's aligned with whatever Rav Yehuda said, I guess, of which we have a condition. If the condition is met, then I'm getting closer to Bali Achel, right? Because the second day is the Bali Achel. And this is a person don't want to get closer to Bali Achel, I would assume. So for him, it's better not to sleep on day one, or not to have the condition met on day one, because then he's getting closer to Bali Achel. But if he already did, then he still need to fulfill the actual neder, I would assume.
Yeah, if that's what you're saying. If you slept on day one, now you got to be careful on day two. But that's why Rav Yehuda says, try not to sleep on day one, because that's the day of Isur. But if you slept on day one, then you still got to be careful.
Right.
But says Rav Yehuda, I'd rather tell you don't sleep on day one, because that's the day of Isur. But if you slept, you still got to be careful but I'm telling you first not to sleep on day one, because that's the day of Isur, and people are not so zahir, not so careful on the condition day, but they're more strong on the Isur day.
Because I thought he agreed with Rav Nachman.
That's in the opposite case around, where the Isur day is day 2.
Right.
My eyes are not going to sleep tomorrow if I sleep today. Okay.
Oh, okay, got it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
Rabbi, if the day of Isur is day 1 and he sleeps, as far as day 2, game is over. He violated the neder.
No, because his neder was, my eyes are not going to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So it's asur for me to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So he says, if it's asur for me to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So that means, but if you slept today, make sure not to sleep tomorrow.
Okay, so we're talking about 2 days.
It's 2 days, but when's the isur? When's the condition? It's asur for me to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So the condition is still day 2, even though, yes, you need both to be asur, but Rav Yehuda says people are more worried about the day of isur. It's asur for me to sleep today if I sleep tomorrow. So it's what you said, it's more asur for to sleep today. Careful about today.
But if I don't sleep tomorrow, then I was allowed
to sleep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Further shows us how important our words are and how Nedarim is so, Okay. Ravina Amar, I was actually telling my students today the famous thing that the professors, whatever, they took 3 plants. Maybe you heard this before. Took 3 different plants. Sunlight and water was all the same. For one plant, they put 24/7 bad words. You're such a bad plant. You're a bad plant. You're a bad plant. One of them only good things. You're a good plant. You're great. You're gonna grow. You're gonna this. And one, nothing. The good one grew the most. The neutral was middle, and this one didn't do bad.
You can look it up on YouTube. There was a Japanese scientist that did the same thing with water under a microscope, and the molecular structure of the water that was told
good things,
as opposed to the one that was formed into the most beautiful formation under the microscope, and the one that had the bad things was broken and fractured.
Wow.
And
it looks black too.
So
it's brown. What Rabbi Zamir Cohen has in his book.
That it looks brown under the microscope.
Brown, yeah.
Wow.
This
It's
is Rabbi
unbelievable.
Zamir.
Yeah.
Also, another Israeli took that and grew beans.
Beans.
With
With that water.
With the, with
beans.
he grew one just normally, and the other one they said cuss things to it, and the other one they had healing. The healing one just grew.
Wow.
So imagine when we say a bracha on the food.
Exactly.
the
That's
water,
how important.
we're putting something.
My brother, I think Jamie, in Israel, maybe still he does it. I think it was for him. That sometimes I would come, he would get flowers on Shabbat and it would last. He said, how does it last? So he says, I don't know. I said, I do a thing. He says, for like Friday, he says, I make a bracha on water. I drink and I pour leftover inside the flowers. So yeah, the bracha on water. I puts it in. He says, it'll last longer like that. The only thing is, got to make sure that you're thirsty for the water, because
You're blessing it for you.
Yeah, no, the
for you to
bracha
consume.
for water you could only say if you're thirsty.
Yeah.
So if your intention is just the flowers, then you have to be thirsty, that you really want water, and then the leftover bracha was set on that. Put it in. That's a good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they say. I mean, our body's 70% water, right?
Yeah.
That's why you're not supposed to say anything bad, from him cursing and all that, and you have to
You
avoid
internalize
Right,
it
in
in
front of
water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice. So we should sell, flower grower water, on the water, the blessed water. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Ravina Amar. Ravina answers another answer for Rav Yehuda. Ravina Amar Le'olam Kedektani. Really, it's as it says in the Mishnah. Meaning, the first answer was saying, no, when the Mishnah said a person says, I swear I'm not going to sleep, it means I'm not going to sleep today. If I sleep tomorrow, that whole thing. He says, no, it's as is. I promise I'm not going to sleep. Umay Bal Yachel. So what Bal Yachel is there? Because he said you can't sleep more than 3 days. Like, you can't not sleep for more than 3 days. So what's the Bal Yachel? Midirabanan. A rabbinic Bal Yachel.
So there wasn't the preconditions. The person just said, "I'm not sleeping,"
Yeah, I promise I'm not sleeping.
which midoraita is not possible to do.
Right. So
So
it's not possible to do. So when does the Bal Yachel come in? It's midirabanan Bal Yachel. Why is it midirabanan Bal Yachel?
You sleep 2 days in a row, I guess.
I'm sorry. What we're going on is we're not changing. Sorry, we're not. The case is that we're not changing what we said earlier. Well, that's going on your eyes.
Yeah.
Then it's going regular. I'm not sleeping. So, you can't make a neder unless it's something physical. Answers the Gemara. There could be, even though Nedarim don't go on something physical, it could go midirabanan. That's what we're saying. There's a Bal Yachel midirabanan. Umi ika Bal Yachel midirabanan. Is there a rabbinic Bal Yachel? Meaning Bal Yachel devaros from the Torah. What is it? Bal Yachel midirabanan? Answers the Gemara. Yes, there is. V'atanya. Dvarim amutarim. V'acharim nagu b'hem isur. Yata Rashay la tiran bifnehem. Shneimar lo yachel devaro. There's a braita that says things that are allowed, but other people they were noheg for themselves not to do it. Maritai, whatever it is, there's something that's allowed, but in this area, people they wouldn't do that thing that's allowed. They make it as if it's not allowed because they don't want it to come to other sins or whatever the case may be. You can't do it in front of them. Why? Lo yachel devaro. So the pasuk really means you can't profane your words, but here davar also means like something, an item. Don't profane an item. I mean, the Braita learns from here. Like a word, ways that we could learn these words in a different way. Don't profane something. What's something? A case of people that do something that's really allowed, but they are strict on themselves not to do it. Don't be that guy in front of them that does it. Why? Lo yachal devaro. So we see lo yachal devaro could be used in its not pure form. Its pure form is don't profane your words. But you could use it for don't profane your actions. So therefore, Ravina says from here, it could. So like you see, Chachamim use these words of this pasuk to amend it to don't profane your actions. So too, there is a Bal Yachel midirabanan. So that means a neder, I'm not going to sleep. It's not going on something physical. It could still work, but the violation is midirabanan.
It's still considered nether, but it's from the Rabbanan and not the
Right. The violation would be midirabanan. Okay, that was just a side point on explaining how this could work, even when you're not saying on my eyes. Okay, now we're going to ask another question on review. Tanan says in the Mishnah, "She'at nehenit liat Pesach, im tilchi levet avig ad achag." Husband tells his wife, "You're not going to benefit from me until Pesach if you go to your father's house until Sukkot." Chag is Sukkot. Stam Chag means Sukkot. So he says, you're not allowed to benefit from me until Pesach. They're before Pesach. So let's say they're a month before Pesach. You're not going to benefit from me until Pesach. It's asur for you to benefit from me until Pesach if you go to your father's house until Sukkot. And so the isur is on stage 1, and the condition is on stage 2. Right? Nehenit li ad Pesach. Asur to benefit from me till Pesach. If you go to your father's house until Sukkot. Let's say she benefits from him before Pesach. The violation would only be if she goes to the father's house till Sukkot. So she could benefit from him. Let's say he says this: you're not allowed to benefit from me until Pesach if you go to your father's house till Sukkot. She goes, okay, I'm not going to go to my father's house. I'll benefit from you still. Benefit. But if she goes to the father's house before Sukkot, all those benefits that she did until Pesach retroactively was in violation.
How can a man say that to his wife? Doesn't he have an obligation in a ksuba?
So, yes, the Gemara is going to ask that regarding certain things, like tashmish amita, like relations. That's the Gemara in the last case.
Yeah.
But let's say just regular benefit. I don't want you to use my pen, use my stuff, right? So, does he have to feed her? Yes. Does he have to clothe her? Yes. A roof over her head? Yes. Does he have to be with her? Yes. Does he have to give her his pen?
So these are
stuff?
additional benefits beyond that.
Things that it seems like he was allowed to bar her from, technically. Okay. So now the case continues. Halcha lifnei Pesach. If let's say she went to her father's house before Pesach, asura be'ana'ato ada Pesach. She's asur to benefit until Pesach. If she went before Pesach, asura behana'ato ad Pesach. Not till Sukkot, because the isur of benefit was always until Pesach. Right? Okay. Halcha lifnei Pesach, says the Gemara, we want to now ask a question of Yehuda. Halcha lifnei Pesach asura. That's what she's asur. If she goes before Pesach, she's asur till Pesach. Lo halcha, lo. If she didn't go until Pesach, she's not asur. So what's the question? If she didn't go, then she's not asur. It sounds like even if she goes after Pesach, it won't be asur. Lo alcha lo. Gemara wants to make a diuk. If she goes before Pesach, she's asur until Pesach.
If she doesn't go, we give her the benefit of the doubt that she's not going to go until till Sukkot.
Asura lo alcha. If she doesn't go, lo.
Right, because the condition that he's saying is you can't have benefit from me until Pesach. Okay.
If you go to your father's house to Sukkot.
If you go to your father's
So that's
house
Isur,
before
and that's the
Sukkot. So now she doesn't go to her father's house before Pesach. Okay, so she's allowed to derive benefit from her husband until Pesach.
Right.
But we're now assuming, this is in the future, we're assuming now Pesach has come and passed,
Right.
and now we have all the time. We assume since she did receive benefit that she's not going to go till
To her father's
Sukkot.
house. Okay. So what's the question of Yehuda?
We see that a person is considered reliable even in regard to heeding a stipulation. So that's the opposite of what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Yehuda is concerned.
Yehuda is concerned in the Isser case.
So it's exactly the same case as the first one, right?
Yeah. So they're going back. The Gemara is going back to the beginning, because now the person's back is up against the wall, like in the beginning.
Yeah, the surrender and the condition is until
The
So we
condition is
allowed the benefits.
right.
Now that Pesach has passed, it's like the second day of the not sleeping.
Right.
Yet my back's up against the wall. Now if I violate it,
Then that's a violation.
then everything retroactively
Right,
is a violation, which
So-
is kind of not which is not how Rabbi
Rabbi
Yehuda
Yehuda
is thinking.
said. Rabbi Yehuda said that lo halacha.
So in this case, you're not permitted to benefit from him.
Before.
Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as he didn't want him to sleep the first day.
Is it a contradiction of Rabbi Yehuda's
It's a question of
opinion?
Yehuda.
No, I think it's exactly the same.
Despite the possibility that she will visit her father's house between now and Sukkot,
So Rabbi Yehuda is concerned that the
if she
person
actually derives benefit from before Pesach, and then she visits her father's house before Sukkot, she will trigger the neder and will have violated retroactively. Nevertheless, we allow her to derive benefit before Pesach, and are unconcerned that she will then visit her father's house before Sukkot, as we see that a person is considered reliable even in regard to heeding a stipulation. It's contrary to the opinion of Yehuda.
So Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that he can't sleep, that he shouldn't sleep the first day,
Right.
because he might be lax on the second day. So if we
Right.
apply this over to this case, she shouldn't be able to derive benefit before Pesach, because she might be lax
Exactly.
before Sukkot.
Exactly.
But here
Here we see
the Gemara is saying that we give the benefit.
you could go benefit from your husband till Pesach. Just don't go to your father's house.
That's
Because we assume you're going to stick to your
Exactly.
nether.
But according
So
to-
why don't we assume in the first case that
Just
if you
go to
slept
sleep.
on the first day,
Exactly,
that
exactly.
that you'll hold to your nether on the second day.
Chazak. Beautiful. So Amar Rav Abba answers for Rav Yehuda, and he says, "Halcha lifnei Pesach asura veloke, lo halcha asura be'alma." So that is the answer. He says, no, it's both asur, according to Rav Yehuda, even beforehand. Halcha lifnei Pesach, if she goes to her father's house before Pesach, asur, and she gets lashes.
You know, the Rambam has a different opinion.
Hold on, one second.
Yeah.
Let's finish the regular and then extra.
No.
Yeah, I see. I know the Ran brings down the Rambam, but okay. So how's Rabbi Abba going to answer? Halcha lifnei Pesach asura veloka, lo halcha asura be'alma. So Rabbi Abba says if she went before Pesach, it's asur, and she gets lashes. If she didn't go before Pesach, it still would have been asur. Not that it's allowed. That's what we're saying. The way we said it before was, if she went before Pesach, it's asur until Pesach. Meaning, if she didn't go, if she didn't go to her father's house, it was allowed to benefit from her husband. So now we're saying no. If she went, halcha lifnei Pesach, asur veloka. It was asur and loka. If she didn't go to her father's house, it was still a sort of benefit from the husband, like in line with Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. We're not. Don't deduce that. Oh, now it's that means that's like the first day. That's like the day of Isur, and you're allowed to benefit from the husband. Rabbi Abba says no. Don't deduce that, because really, if you went to the father's house, then it's Asur and Malkut. If you didn't go to the father's house, it's still Asur to benefit from the husband until Pesach. Now he says, okay, I'm not going to my dad's house. Let me benefit from now until Pesach. Says, you don't know, Asur. Because it's the time of Isur. Okay. Ema Seifa. Adir, if it's okay, we put the Rambam on the side. So, okay. Ema Seifa. Now the Gemara asks from the latter part of that Mishnah on Rav Yehuda. Achara Pesach beval yachil devaro. If she goes after Pesach, she violates bal yachil devaro. She violates the oath. Ve'i delo itani lifnei Pesach mi'ika bal yachil. And if she didn't benefit from before Pesach, is there a bal yachil? It must be that she elapshita deitani. This is the same type of question we had earlier on review in this case, meaning the Gemara is now dissecting. The last part of that Mishnah is if she goes to her father's house after Pesach, she violates Bayachad Devaro. So, well, hold on a second. What's the Bayachad Devaro? It's only if she benefited from her husband before Pesach. If she didn't benefit from her husband Pesach, we said this. Don't go. We just said now. Rabbi Abba says, "Don't go." Asur says Rabbi Yehuda, "Don't go to your father's house. Don't benefit. Don't benefit." Lady says, "Okay, I'm not going to my dad's house. Can I benefit from my husband still? No, don't benefit still," says Rabbi Yehuda. Don't benefit. Now let's say, fine, she doesn't benefit. After Pesach, she goes to her father's house. Oh, Ba'al Yachel Devaro. What's the Ba'al Yachel? I didn't benefit from my husband said, "Don't benefit from me till Pesach," all the way till. Okay, I didn't benefit from you until Pesach. It must be if there's a Bal Yachel after Pesach. That's the question. If you didn't benefit from you before Pesach, is there a Bal Yachel? Ela Pshita. It obviously must be the Itani. That you did. The case is that you did benefit from the husband before Pesach. Alma Mitani. It must be the case is that she benefited in the time of Isur. But you to the Rav Yehuda, it's a question of Rav Yehuda. It's the exact type of question we had before. That Rav Yehuda says that in the time of Isur, there's no benefit, there's no nothing. Be careful. But here, the case must be that she benefited in the time of Isur, because how could you have a lo yachel devaro if she didn't benefit and she goes to the father's house after Pesach? Question of Rav Yehuda. And now we're answering the same way. Kikitani, you know what Rav Yehuda says? De'i itani. Says Rav Yehuda, not that you have to benefit before, but rather if she benefited before, then it's a violation of Bayachad Devaro. Rav Yehuda doesn't say that you have to. The case is, it must be that she did benefit before. Question of Rav Yehuda. No, Rav Yehuda says it's not that you must benefit before Pesach, and that's a violation. Question of Rav Yehuda. No, Rav Yehuda is just saying if you did benefit before. Then if you go to the house after Pesach, then it's going to be a violation of Hayachad Devaro. Because the whole question was, if you didn't benefit before, because Rav Yehuda says, you can't benefit before. Because we're worried it's time of Yisur. Okay, if you can't benefit before, why if I go after Pesach, then I'm violating Hayachad Devaro? I didn't benefit anything before. The case must be you benefited before. If I benefited before, question of Rav Yehuda says you can't benefit before because it's the time of Yisur. Answers of Rav Yehuda, of course, you can't benefit before. The case is Bayachel of after Pesach is if you benefited before. I told you if you ask Rav Yehuda, I'm going to tell you don't benefit. We're in a time of Isur. I'm worried.
Don't sleep.
So don't sleep on day one.
Don't benefit
right?
till Pesach.
Yeah, don't benefit till Pesach.
Don't sleep on day one.
Don't sleep on day one. Same thing. Like the first case right at the beginning of the Gemara. Don't sleep on day one. Don't benefit before. And what's the answer here? If you benefited before, if you slept on day one, if you benefited before, then there's going to be Ba'al Yachad Devaro. Chazak. Okay. Now another question on Rabbi Yehuda. The bombarding in Rabbi Yehuda continues. And actually, the Ran later says, the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. because when you ask questions and then at the end, let's say it remains a question on review, let's say, then okay, review this question, and then that's it. So it's we usually don't go halacha with him, but when we're always finding answers for him, then that is the halacha is like him. Okay, and also if there's many questions on him, that means that he's the main opinion. Second line down, Tanan, Sha'neheni liyad hachag. Now opposite case. You can't benefit from me until Sukkot. Im tilchi lebet avich ad Pesach. If you go to your father's house till Pesach. So they're now before Pesach. So the Isur, this is day 2. The Isur is, you can't benefit from me till Sukkot, condition if you go to your father's house till Pesach.
He really doesn't want her to go to her father's.
This guy's finding every which way. Don't get Pesach, Sukkot. Just don't go.
This was more logical.
Yeah.
Like time-wise, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, halcha lifnei Pesach. Let's say she went to her father's house before Pesach. Asura behanato ad hachag. She's asur to benefit from her husband till Sukkot. Umuter lelech achar Pesach. But it's mutar for her to go to her father's house after Pesach. Because you already violated. Right? Let's see again. Tanan. Shatnei liyad hachag. You can't benefit from me until Sukkot. And they're standing now before Pesach, a month before Pesach. If you go to your father,
He was drunk on Purim.
yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Chazak. He says, if you go to your father until Pesach, see, you can't benefit from me until Sukkot. That's the Isur. If you go to your father till Pesach, let's say she went to her father by Pesach, Asur ba'anato adachag. She's asur to benefit from her husband until Sukkot. Umuter lelech achar Pesach, but she's allowed to go to her father's house after Pesach. That's obvious. Okay. Halacha asura. If she went to her father's house, asur. Lo halcha lo. If she didn't go to her father's house, it's not asur. This is the same type of question as before. If she didn't go to her father's house, it's asur. Sorry, it's not asur. Meaning, that is the condition. Don't benefit from me till Sukkot. That is the Isur. Condition is, on condition you don't visit your father's house till Pesach. If she went, it's Asur. If she didn't go, it's not Asur. If she didn't go, it's not Asur, means if she didn't go to her father's house until Sukkot, if she didn't go to her father's house till Sukkot, there's no violation.
She's not prohibited.
Technically, the Isur is only until the end of Pesach.
Right.
After that, there's no more.
But why is that a question on Rav Yehuda? Lo halcha lo. Can I see over here? No, it's the same question as before.
It's a retroactive triggering of the nether. Again,
right?
how?
Yeah. Tanan.
You just said that
That's
she's
right.
permitted
Lo
to go to
achar
his
lo.
house.
But if she didn't go yet to her father's house, she's not forbidden to derive benefit from her husband. Even before Pesach.
Yeah.
It's even before Pesach, in the time of Yisur, despite the possibility she will visit her father's house between the time of declaration and Pesach. Now, if she actually derives benefit and then visits her father's house before Pesach, she will trigger the neder retroactive to the moment that her husband uttered it and will have violated it. Nevertheless, we allow her to derive benefit before she goes to her father's house, without concern for the possibility that she will commit stipulated act. Thus, see that a person is considered reliable even in the regard of heeding a stipulation. Contradicts the opinion of Yehuda. Same type of thing as before. Lo alcha lo. She didn't go. She's not forbidden, and we allow her. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, in the time of Yisur, you're not allowed to.
It's like sleeping on day one.
Yeah. Amarava hu hadin da'afilu lo alcha asura. This is what we said before. So, no, says Rava. No, same type of thing. Hu hadin da'afilu lo alcha asura. If she didn't go, it's asur. Halcha, but if she did go, asura veloka. It's asur and malkut. Lo alcha asura be'alma. But if she didn't go, it's still asur. So we still say don't go. not that you could go. Not lo alcha lo, she didn't go, now it's allowed. But rather, still asur. Okay, in line with your view, that like the answer before.
For this one, there's like no warning in a way, because if she goes before Pesach, that's it. She's gonna get lashes, right?
What do you mean, a warning?
Because the other ones is like okay, like there is sort of like if you end up sleeping, you still have the chance the following day not
Right,
to sleep.
right.
But in this one, it's kind of like
You're
you
stuck.
don't get a chance.
Yeah, no other chances.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have just a question about the Hebrew here.
About the what? Hebrew?
Yeah, the Asura means she's prohibited, which means like she's going to break the vow, I think. If
Yes.
yes, Asura and Loka means she already broke the vow, and
Halchas-
respectively,
Halcha, she goes, asura, and she gets lashes.
right? And Asura Ba'alma, it means that she's merely prohibited, which means you're gonna break the Isur, and then she's gonna get closer to the Bali Achel.
No, she gets Isur Bal Yacheh, but doesn't. Be'alma means like on its own. Just an Isur, meaning, yeah, Isur is very bad, but Isur and Malkut is worse. So just an Isur, not Asur and lashes. Yeah.
Okay, now I understand.
Yeah. Metive. Question. Further question on review. Okay. Here we go. Another question. Metive. Kikar zu alai hayom im elech lemakom ploni lemachar. This bread is asur today if I go to that place tomorrow. Asur for me today if I go to that place tomorrow. Achal hareze bival yelech. If he eats it, he has a sin on him, don't go to that place the next day. So you see from over here, you could eat it that day one. Question of Yehuda. Right? This is asur on me at the time of Yisur. If I go, that's the condition. But at the time of Yisur, it says you could eat. It says, did we say that you must eat it? Achal ktani, meaning you ate it, b'di'avad. If you ate it, if you ate it, now you have a sin on you of don't go to that place that you stipulated. Halach. But now we're asking another question. Halach. Hareze beval yachal devaro. If you did go to that place, then you violated. Mehalech lo. The kasha of Rabbi Yehuda. Mehalech.
That doesn't mean he breaks the vow.
No, if you went.
And you haven't still.
No, and you ate it. The case is you ate it.
Oh, okay.
Then bal yachal devaro. What's mehalech lo? I was also confused on this.
Melech walking.
I know, but what's? I think it's like mehalech is like you must walk. No, what does it say?
May go.
You may go.
May not. Oh.
The Brisa does not state that the vower may go to the specified place the next day, which would be the law if he did not eat the bread that day. Rather, it implies that due to the commandment not to desecrate his word, he may not go there the next day. May not go, which is based on the assumption that he did eat the bread that day. Thus, we see the vower is in fact permitted to eat the bread that day.
How do we see he's permitted? Halach mehalech lo. you may go, it doesn't say. It says if you went.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it says if you went, it's asur. If you went, it's asur. That means that the case is that you ate.
Yeah.
So the case, that's another question of Yehuda. So, but just from the wording of the Mishnah here, so you went by Chadavaro. It doesn't say you may go, meaning you may go if you didn't eat. You went, it's asur. If you went, it's asur. That means you ate. If you ate, how could you eat? According to Rabbi Yehuda, that's the first. That's at the time of Yisur. Answers the Gemara. Amar lach Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rabbi Yehuda, Hu adin delitni me'alech. It should have also said me'alech, but I diktani reisha achal delo mitni le ochel tani seifa halach. Since it says it could have worked out to say me'alech, but since the reisha said achal delo mitni le ochel, achal is past tense. If you ate it, it doesn't say ochel like you must eat it. Because the question on Rabbi Yehuda was,
If you.
was eat it. He says, achal. If you ate it, then you're okay. Then that's what we're dealing with. If you ate it, then don't go. And that was the so achal was the good version to help Rabbi Yehuda. But achal and halach work together. Ochel and mehalech. So, but halach is a question on Rav Yehuda. It should have said mehalech. Says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Yehuda, Hu hadin. It could have said the same thing. Delitni mehalech. It could have said mehalech. But why didn't it say mehalech? I diktani. Since it said in the reisha achal, the lo mitni le ochel, and didn't say ochel. Achal was if you did. Tani seifa halach. It also said halach. You went, but it could have said mehalech.
Which is in present tense, me'alech, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, mehalech is in
To be present.
right. So that's why halach in this case is different than achal. Achal is if you ate it, so that works with Rav Yehuda. Ochel is eat it. You must eat it. That's a question of Yehuda. How can you must eat it in the time of Yisur? No, achal. If you ate it, then this is what you do. So halach is if you went, it's a violation. That's a question of Yehuda. If you went, it's a violation. That means you ate it before. So no, it means me'alech. But the reason why it said halach is because just like it said achal before, it said halach. Achal, halach is the same. Is like the same tense, right? Okay. Let's zoom to the Mishnah. It's not that. I don't think it's that difficult. Here we go. Person says, "Omer li isha konam shani mishamesh." A man tells his wife, I'm not going to be with you in the form of a neder. He violates if he does go with his wife. He has to do this mitzvah. He has to be with his wife according to the Torah. As the pasuk says, she'era kesuta ve'onata lo yigara. She'era kesuta ve'onata lo yigara. What's the she'era again? The food. Ksuta is a clothing. Onata is the relations.
Food.
Right? Food, clothing, and relations is lo yigara. He can't hold back from that. So what do you mean? How can you make a neder? Answers the Gemara, Be'omer, Hanaat tashmishech alai. He's talking about himself. He says, I'm making the benefit of the tashmish is on me, that I'm making a neder not to benefit from the tashmish. And indirectly that means you can't be with her. But I'm making a neder not to benefit from tashmish. Not that I'm saying I'm not gonna assur that I'm not gonna be with you. I'm making a neder. I'm assuring myself from the benefit of tashmish. That works. The Amar Rav Kahana, tashmishi alayich. So how do you know you could do such a thing? Because Rav Kahana says, tashmishi alayich kolfin ota. Umeshamashto. if a lady says that I am not benefiting from the I'm asur for me to benefit from the tashmish, we force her to not do that and to go back with her husband. Tishabudeh meshabatle, because she's also obligated to be there to be with her husband. Hana'at tashmishech alai asur she'en machilin lo le'adam davar ha'asur lo. But her personal benefit, in the first case was tashmishech alaich. I'm asuring relations.
Konam on you in the first case. In the second case, she's
It's
saying
on her own
konam
self.
on me.
Right, on her own hana, that it would work. We don't feed a person something that's asur for her, because she made the benefit asur on her, so we don't. She can't. She can make that type of neder. So if she can make that type of neder, we see that he can make that type of neder as well. So the Gemara is answering, how could a person? It's asur of the Torah. Yeah, it's asur if you bar the actual, if you bar the relations, say I'm not having relations with you. But if you say on yourself, I'm asuring the benefit of relations on me, so then obviously then you can't. So it's a little bit of a loophole for how the person can make his wife asur, but it's a loophole for really on himself not to have that benefit. Okay. Chazak u'Baruch. And we will continue on Sunday, Hashem.
We got a whole page.
We got a whole page.